Welcome to Prediction Market Movers. My name's Chris Gerlacher. I'm with Prediction News, and we have a celebrity in the house today. We got a great treat for y'all. If you're here with us, like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Prediction News, and follow us on X at Prediction News. Now to get into our guest, we've got Tumbles here with us, the grand owner.
Hello.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Super happy to have you. I'm excited for you to tell everybody about the Tumbles Financial Complex and how you pulled it up. I mean, I remember we met at Manifest, and we'll get into your story and really why you're here. But one of the most striking things about talking to you was, just how clear-eyed and self-aware you are about how to have charisma, how to be convincing, and I think you've got a lot to show other traders and other platforms about leverage trading. I know that's a popular project in crypto coming up right now, but before we get
thank you. I appreciate you saying that. It'll be interesting because I have somewhat contrarian takes on crypto. I don't know if that'll be like the focus of where we go, but we'll just see.
We'll wing it. But before we get there, who were you before prediction markets? How did you get into prediction markets in the first place?
So I've been a math tutor for a long time, and I'm currently in the last stretch of my program to be certified as a math teacher, and I'll have my own classroom and all that. So that's just a bit about background. I have a background, just hobby level, in game design, and I have a background in philosophy. I've taken a bunch of courses, and just, like many, I consider myself rationalist adjacent, and all that. So I think those oranges coming through. I think I got interested in prediction markets kind of along those two vectors. One is that I think they're like really interesting systems to engage with, kind of in similar way, like some people are, some people are interested in trains, that you take that a stereotype of a certain type of person that's, really into trains, something about prediction markets, the way they work. You get a whole bunch of people, they've got different opinions, and like it just all sorts out. The mechanics of them are fascinating to me. And also I think they're really interesting from like epistemic tool type of perspective. There's a lot to explore there.
Right. So you're in it for the forecasting, you're in it for the, how the flock of birds flies, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's certainly how I got initially interested in them. And I was interested in them for a while before getting involved on Manifest. For a while, it might surprise not everybody, maybe people listening wouldn't even know anyways, but it might surprise you to know that I'm not actually that much of a gambler when it comes to money. When I've got money to invest, it's just going in the S&P 500, just straight in there, straight out, super straightforward stuff. And so on principle, I was interested in getting involved with prediction markets just because I think they're really cool and interesting, but I didn't trust my ability to outcompete the sharks. And yeah, but then eventually I got into Manifold, like, play money, it's the perfect thing to experiment with. And
Manifold, the free money platform, puts on the Manifest Festival every year. Right.
And great site, great event.
Yeah. Oh, it was an absolute blast. So tell me about your early trades on Manifold and when you begin the borrowing.
Yeah. So I meant to take notes on. I took a bunch of notes, but the one thing I didn't take notes on is the timeline. But I think I can wing most of it. So when I got started, the thing about prediction markets, especially with play money, is you bet what you have, and then you're out and you think, well, the market's still wrong. I sunk what I had into it, and it's still wrong. I need more mana so that I can adjust the market more. So
mana, the free money on Manifold.
I ran out of free money. So I contacted another user and just said, hey, can I get a loan? I just talked to just special case, and they were really nice, and they didn't even specify an interest rate. They gave me like here's a bunch of mana, pay me back in a couple months, whatever you think is reasonable. They gave me one of those. So that was like the starter. And then I went, okay, this is cool. And I started asking for more loans because of course I spent that. I ran out of that, and the markets are still wrong. And I ended up. So one of the things I did is I went through just listings on the site of who had mana,
Mhm.
period. And I would take a look at their profile. And I'd be like, okay, how much is their balance compared to their net worth? How much? Like I had a few things I was looking for, and then I would tailor a pitch. And I said slightly different pitches to like dozens and dozens of people,
Mhm.
saying like, "Oh, hey, here's my pitch." And importantly, one idea I had to try and make these pitches work is I made a market that was, will Tumbles ever be late to pay back a loan?
Mhm.
And I would bet it down, and they could bet yes as insurance on giving me a loan,
Mhm.
and that really got the ball rolling in a big way.
Okay, so there's a lot there. So on Manifold, it's all user-generated markets with play money. Any user can create
Yes.
their own market. You're using mana to trade in these markets, and you're looking at the top Manifold users. And what are you looking for in those people before you decide, okay, these people are people who should be pitched for a loan?
So, I mean, the biggest thing, the perfect person was someone who's online enough to respond,
Mhm.
but like they've just got a big balance that they're not doing anything with. Because
Okay.
then, there's an obvious angle there, right? Hey, I'll
Mhm.
give you a return. You're not doing anything with it. That
Right.
was the main thing I was looking for. But I went afield from that as well. I cast a fairly wide net.
Right. So when you were at your peak net worth, this is before the election. What kind of mana balance are you sitting on roughly before the 2024 election and the Biden debate?
I think, going off memory, I think going into the Biden debate, I think like a million and some,
Okay.
which is, I think like a third. I'm just gonna ballpark. Maybe that's like 30K if you're like buying it with US dollars. Now, is it really worth that much? Because you can't turn it back into US dollars.
Right.
But just as a reference point.
Right. So you've got this giant balance, and what are you traded on? What are some of the positions you've got invested in?
I bet on some election stuff.
Yeah.
I bet on a lot of different things.
Well, the big ones are the election related ones. So, I mean, the Biden debate, I believe, was one of the first turning points where the wagers start to go south. What does that downward trajectory look like?
So I was one. Okay, I should say part of my strategy with all these loans and then bets is that Manifold gives you free daily loans on your positions, attach your positions at 0% interest rate to
Okay.
incentivize long-term betting. So, at the time, I think it was like 2%, 2% of your positions get loaned back to you. And I was doing math, and it was basically like, okay, if I get a loan from someone at 5% interest per month, but what that mana they gave me
Mhm.
is being further loaned to me in the form of daily loans,
Right.
then I only have to make a return of like, I did the math. It was 1 or 2% to be in the black. So I'm like, oh, I can. The loan rate is wrong. Basically, I said like the going rate for loans is wrong, and I just need to take as many loans as I
Right.
can. And part of it was just sinking them into what seemed like very safe bets. Because
Mhm.
even if it's a small return, if I just keep,
Right.
it's like free, it's a free infinite mana machine was my thinking. And so one of those super safe markets that you could just sink a bunch into was
Mhm.
Biden being the nominee. Because I mean, he was already the nominee. I mean, how much more safe of a bet can you get, right?
And this is like summer
And
2024, right?
yes, or even before summer. This is like the spring.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I think the debate was like in March or like thereabouts, give or take a month or two, I think.
It was later in the year.
Oh, okay. I might be slightly misremembering, but
No worries. We'll stake market as we go.
yeah. And uh, so Biden's odds of being the nominee start slipping. And I think, well, you know what? I put a lot into here. And part of me is like, well, you better deleverage. You better, you don't want to. Then I was like, well, what if
What
I
if?
just it's I just assume that he's the nominee? Because like I could just decide like, oh, if I'm wrong, then my account explodes.
Mhm.
And but if I'm right, then it's great. And you know what? Maybe I'll just run with that assumption. That seems like more fun. And so I did. And it turns out when you decide that the true market percentage is 100%, suddenly like all sorts of activity starts seeming really high EV. So I start taking all kinds of loans and just sinking it all into Biden being the nominee. Eventually, he's not the nominee. My account craters.
Right. So after he drops out in July, you're
Yeah.
in trouble now.
But I did prepare at least enough that I negotiated with my creditors to push back due dates to the end of the summer.
Okay.
So that I was not officially late, even though my account was completely underwater. I had a few months for some who knows what to happen. And what eventually did happen is I think maybe like a month or so before the convention, I messaged the CEO of Manifold, and I gave him a pitch. And my pitch was, hey, my account's underwater, but I really like using the site. I'm an active community member, and you're allowed to create a new account. So I'll create a new account, but it would be nice if I could continue on the account I'm on now. I've got friends list, everything. It's just nice to continue on the same account. So how about this? What if I pay you just like a smallish fee just to bring my account back up to 0? And it'll be because of my account was in the negative, and it'll be as if I'm starting on a new alt, but I just get to use my account. That's my pitch, just bring me back up to 0. And through some negotiations, in the end, I didn't have to pay a small fee. It was given to me as a loan with no interest rate or due date. So,
basically,
really not a buyout or bailout.
So, yeah, how far underwater were you? What was that negative cash balance when you went to Manifold?
Like $1.5 million at that point.
Okay, so you're earning, these daily loans on this daily mana on your account with your open positions, with the positions you've got in these markets. The markets go downhill, you lose all the money, and Manifold bails you out. And
bails me out effectively.
What was their interest in you? Did they like the community aspect? Were you just deeply entertaining? What was the angle for him?
Yeah, along those lines. I was an active community member up to that point. And, I think that I gave a convincing pitch, I suppose, about, hey, if my account is at negative $1 million and you give me $1 million to bring it up to 0, that's actually the same mana in like your balance sheet. Like that's the same amount of inflation. Or at least, so a lot of people were upset, and nothing like that has happened since, and probably won't happen again. But
it's like 2008. It only happens once.
Yeah.
Right. So what do you?
Let's hope.
Yeah. What do you end up doing with that new account, or with your account at 0?
I was still in trouble. If I just left the account alone, I would eventually go bankrupt because I had enough to now survive for quite a while, but I had loans eventually that totaled more than I had. So like I got to increase this somehow. Well, I'll bet on Kamala to win the election. So I took that bailout and I put it on Kamala to win.
Right.
And she did not win that election.
I noticed.
Yes.
So what was the account before and after?
At that point, after the election, the account was like, sometimes it's kind of weird because the account like looked like it was at 0, but I owed like 600K to other users. So negative something, maybe $500,000 negative at that point. And then I got some more loans because of course I can still get loans from other users. They'll still give me. And I, going into the new year, like, okay, let's bet it on Biden not pardoning Fauci. So huge bet on Biden not pardoning Fauci. Biden did in fact pardon Fauci. That all went away. And so at this point, and I've skipped over a bunch of like, minor debacle and things along the way. But at this point, we're going into the Canadian election. And at this point, I've had 3 bets that in my mind were like, I'm just assuming I'm right because my account is dead otherwise. And somehow that happened 3 times. And so going into the Canadian election, I'm like, well, I'm so underwater. I'm like, people are still willing to give to loan me mana, but it's I basically have nothing, and I need to make 1,000,000 mana to pay people back eventually. So I offered a promotion. You know, the election was only a couple weeks away, and I said, I will double your mana promotion. I will give you double your mana in a month or whatever I said. And yeah, it's a loan at like after 1 month, 100% interest rate. Insane. Tons of people and when that starts to peter out, I go, new deal, triple your mana in 3 weeks. It's close to the election now. So I just kept, and that ballooned it up to like 2 million mana with an enormous position on the Conservatives to win the Canadian election.
Right. And this was before the great reversal where Mark Carney pulls it out.
Yes. I think most of what I sunk in, right, I had a position on the Conservatives when the Conservatives were at like 80% chance, and then Carney did the reversal and they were in the gutter. And then all that mana I was borrowing, I was putting on like a 5 times return if I'm right. So I would have been able to pay everyone back just like that. I like to say that, you know, my strategy on Manifold was really good because I was consistently wrong for like 2 years. And yet at the end of the day, I had like a 20% chance of being rich. So if you're consistently wrong on prediction markers for 2 years and you're still in it, I mean, something about that strategy is working.
Right. And one of the most striking things to me, so this is all, you know, we're at spring 2025 now. Manifest is in May, where all these Manifold users and a lot of other people from the prediction market community gather. And you're like a, you know, popular mini celebrity. I mean, I'm talking to Manifold execs who, you know, you've endeared yourself with, and, you know, it's this, you know, kind of funny, you know, quirky story. And I remember asking you at the time, I mean, you know, what's it, and how did you keep convincing people to lend you money, even with your track record? And why are you so, you know, almost beloved by all of these people you owe money to?
One of the biggest ideas I have around this is aligning mechanics and vibes, or attacking this from 2 angles. Because with Manifold specifically, and I think this does analogize to many things in life and many things you might try and do, but on Manifold specifically, it's kind of defined by 2 big characteristics. One, it's prediction markets. It's bound by like economic forces, and you have to respect that. Which the simplest example would be, if you want someone to give you a loan, offer return on investment. Obviously, right? Like whatever you're trying to do, it has to conform to good economic principles if you want it to be successful. And then the other thing is that Manifold is a site where people are primarily trying to have fun. It's a play money site. People do care about their mana. You'd be surprised how much they really do. But ultimately, everyone's there is trying to have a good time. And the way I like to put it is that it's very important to arrange things such that the funniest outcome would be if you were successful. Because if the funniest outcome is for you to be successful, then the universe will align to make that happen. People will come out of the woodwork to help you. Things will just work out. If it's not funny for you to be successful, you can still be successful, but there will be roadblocks. The universe will be like, I don't know about this. It throws things up. And yeah, so that's always something I had in mind whenever I was trying to plan something. How can this be funny in a way that makes sense mechanically?
Okay. What was can you give me an example of one of the funny things you had teed up where, you know, giving you mana was the best thing for the audience?
Oh, yes. I entered, this is at Manifest. There was a bunch of boondoggles for me to even get the 10K entry fee to get in. But the structure was fairly simple. 2 contestants and a host. Each contestant brings 10K mana. The host brings 10K mana, 30K pot, and it's the prisoner's dilemma. Both people can share, and they both walk away with 15K. That's just a profit. You brought 10K, walked away with 15. Or you can steal. If one person steals and the other cooperates, then the stealer takes the whole 30K. If they both steal, the host gobbles it all.
Okay.
And the basic strategy, if you think about it a bit, or if you're familiar with these kinds of games, the basic strategy is you want to strong arm your opponent. Like ostensibly, these games are about convincing your opponent that you'll cooperate. We should both cooperate and we'll get along. But what you can do is you can walk in and say, hey, sorry, I'm stealing. And afterwards, I will give you 15K. Now, there's nothing to bind me to that. You just have to trust me. But if you steal, then we both lose everything. Your only hope of getting anything is to cooperate with me. Let me have it and I'll distribute it as I will. It's that strong arm tactic. And I thought, I could do something like that. It's not funny enough. So my spin on it was to walk in and say, hey, I'm strong arming you, but I'm underwater. You got unlucky being paired with me because I need all of it. Because 15K, that's not getting me out of anything. I need the whole 30K. I will find a way to flip it during Manifest. And once I turn it into hundreds of K so I can pay some people back, then I'll give you 15K or 20K. That was my pitch. And it ended up working quite well. I believe I walked away with 60K in loans to flip.
Wow. So you get
that game.
Oh, from that game. So did you get
yes.
people from the audience and the host to give you mana?
Yes. I negotiated with Conflux, who was in the audience. I negotiated with the host. There was a twist that made things tough for my opponent because they had a strategy of leveraging themselves of like a strong arm position where they had locked themselves in by betting like a whole bunch of mana that they would steal. So like, oh, you have to believe me, of course. And that ended up not going very well for them. And yeah, so we were shouting with, hey, you in the audience, can you make this work? Because you needed liquidity. It was a good time.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So how much do you see yourself as an entertainer at this point in this space?
I guess you could put it that way. I want to be entertaining. I want to be like that's like how I want to engage. Maybe that's a nitpicking to say there's a subtle distinction between being an entertainer and still being like a fellow user, just who's oriented that way. But like that makes basically sense. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right, but you're still. You still see yourself as a trader and a user, and you're still using the platform. You're still working to beat the market.
Yeah. It's just now, if I make enough mana, I just skim all my profits off into filling in some of the massive hole of debt that I've got left over.
Right. Well, how is I haven't caught up with you since Manifest. How has the Tumbles financial complex gone in the last few months?
It slowed down. Manifest was definitely the climax of everything going on. With at the end of Manifest, I was in a poker hand where if I could just win that, not just that poker hand, but that poker table, be the last one standing at the table, I would have 2 million mana, which would be enough to pay everyone back. Didn't win that poker game. So that was definitely a climax. That was made possible, by the way, Semiotic Rivalry, the most are usually considered the best trader on the site, but 1 million mana that I would lose against me, that I would lose the poker game. But it's slowed down since then. I've been operating off of Orangey's account. My cat has an account on Manifold, and he's been nice enough to let me use his while mine's unusable because it's negative 6 million is the current balance.
Yeah. So what can other prediction market users on the real money platforms and some of the crypto platforms learn from you?
So if you were as a trader to try and take lessons from me as a trader,
right.
One thing to learn, the thing is, I was ultimately not very successful as a trader, but I also that wasn't super illusion shattering because I never really, I would say like if the average person off the street is probably like an F tier future predictor because it's kind of a specific skill to take that seriously, right. And maybe a D tier market manipulator, like just a trader because that's its own skill. I would say I'm like maybe a B tier future predictor and like a C tier market,
right?
Which is like a lot better than the average person. And like I'm super familiar. I know the language. I've listened to, like I'm able, like I'm competent, right. But not like competitive, level. So my advice, I put all my money in the S&P 500. So I've got thoughts,
Yeah.
but it's not really specifically as a trader. Because my advice to people as a trader when they ask me how should I invest my money, my advice is usually to do it in the safest, boringest way if possible.
Right. No, I mean it's good advice and it's hard-won experience. Do you have any thoughts on some of the leveraging projects that some of the that are working their way through the crypto space right now that'll eventually let real money platforms and crypto platforms offer leverage bets on prediction markets?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Um, So one thing that is similar between prediction markets and crypto, because often these things are linked, like most money prediction markets, or maybe all, you participate in via crypto usually, right? But they are like kind of different things, right? Prediction markets and crypto. But one thing they both have in common is that they are zero sum or even sub-zero sum usually games where, if you make $10, somebody else lost $10 from being wrong. Certainly in prediction markets, I would say that's true for crypto. And so a lot of the dynamics around leverage are going to be similar there. You can take the model from one and apply it to the other. And that's a little different. It's fundamentally similar, but a little different than, say, the stock market, because let's say you're a lender and you lend money to a bunch of people investing in the stock market. Well, on average, people are doing well in the stock market. On average, everyone's making a little bit of return. So it averages out that your investment is safe. In principle, if you're giving people money to invest in crypto or prediction markets, there's not that necessarily that same dynamic. So I think you have to separate out prediction market users into a few different categories. I think the easiest way to talk about it is sharks, whales, and minnows.
Because the thing that makes your story hilarious is the fact that you're on a free money platform and like the platform likes you and the community loves you. And, if you pull that like at Polymarket, it would look super different. Or, if you're borrowing real money and not being able to pay it back, obviously, you probably don't have house apartment anymore. So that is this conversation I'm watching in the financial and crypto space is what a responsible trading ethos will look like in at least some subset of the community. But I think you're going to see that fault line deepen in the industry. Maybe not soon, but certainly a year or two or three from now, that's going to be a pretty sharp divide.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because prediction markets are a couple different, like, distinct things. They can be used in a couple distinct ways, but the different ways they can be used are extremely linked, because if you're using prediction markets as just gambling, then that is liquidity to feed and incentivize your super nerdy or whatever sharky career prediction market participants. Like, those markets are linked. So one way I'm thinking of it, because like you want to it's funny, the language you use to talk about these really depends on, how are we approaching these? Are we approaching prediction markets as a participant? Are we approaching them as a business trying to find its niche? Are we approaching it as someone interested in prediction markets as an epistemic tool? They want them to be more prominent in society. The language, the way to talk around these different things really changes depending on what angle we're coming at it from. But the one I think one way, this is more from the organization perspective, maybe. I feel like your sharks. So if I'll define them, I think it's somewhat obvious what these would mean. But if sharks, minnows, and whales, minnows, small traders, casual traders, whales, people that come in with more money than sense, and sharks, career or career-ish, very experienced, try-hard traders. On Manifold, whale is almost synonymous with like that sharky type of thing, because that's almost always they're extremely linked, but in real money markets, whales are not necessarily sharks.
Yeah.
I think one way as a company to think about users is that the sharks are basically employees, sort of. They are taking money from the system, and they are what make the prediction markets good at predicting things.
Right. They've got the specific price in mind.
Yes. And the minnows and the whales are like the customers. They're the ones bringing money into the system. They're the ones you have to attract and keep happy for the sake of the sharks to make the whole thing work. And how that connects, because that was a bit of a ramble, but how that connects to what you brought up about the leverage and, very like what's a word to use for the type of betting that we're both gesturing at?
I mean, the really high, high risk, high reward type of
high risk, high reward, maybe casual even, or high risk, high reward trading. One way to think about that is it's a good way to get a bunch of liquidity into the system and make some money, but I would be concerned about regulation at some point. I don't have strong opinions or knowledge about how this will shake out. I know that sports betting has kind of gone through cycles in the past where it gets banned and then kind of brought back, and it's fuzzy, but it would be good for prediction markets if they were seen as kind of like legitimate, kind of like, high status. That's really the word I'm thinking of. If not like, low status sports betting, but high status prediction markets. If they're linked too much, I think something would be lost. That's more of a thought. I don't have more to flesh out on that specific point. Do you have any thought on that?
No, I mean, it makes a lot of sense that, so you seem to be pointing at the idea that consumer protections adopted voluntarily by the industry make it look better to consumers and help them, help prediction markets actually be able to separate themselves out from the gambling industry as a forecasting tool and as a hedging tool and as some of these other, things and some of these other functions that these platforms can perform. I think is what you're poking at.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the trouble is, where do you actually get money from prediction markets? Now, the most obvious thing is just to, put a fee on trading or something similar, right? Just some friction somewhere in the system where you collect money. And that that works. If the ideal situation would be if there was some way for prediction markets to leverage the information they provide, that epistemic nature of it, but it's not obvious to me actually how to do that. It would be incredibly valuable, because what you want is for people to be like, hey, you don't know what you're talking about. Look, the prediction market just says you're wrong. You want them to be appearing in the public consciousness in that way. And if you're providing that service by enabling that should be worth something. And how do you monetize that? Maybe the answer might be hard without just leaning into the high risk.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be, there are some partnerships that I think and some data sharing that could be on the horizon that could be viable in that area. But I think the platforms are going to have a lot to think about over the next few years as they grow the industry. Because they're going to go at a breakneck pace, at least in the regulated industry, until the CFTC gets their chair confirmed, and maybe when there's a new administration that prioritizes some of the guardrails over some of the innovations and new products. So I think right now we're in the kind of sprint phase. So we're gonna see. I think we could see like commercial idea markets and conditional markets and some of the more experimental stuff that I've seen in academic papers, but haven't seen in real life. I'm hoping that guardrails are also coming as well. We're gonna see how much they keep pace.
Yeah, you don't want like a sharp snapback. You want an easing on the brakes rather than a hard push. Real quick, you probably know more about this than me because I don't know very much. Do you know anything about Polymarket getting that massive evaluation for? Do you know what I'm referring to?
Oh yeah, last week they had a $2 billion raise and were valued at $9 billion. I strongly suspect they got that high because they're in part because they're a crypto company, because they can. I mean, yes, they're going to launch their regulated U.S. product basically any day now, quite soon. Um, but there's also this global nature of the blockchain and some of the more unpredictable ways that you can innovate on the blockchain that some of the futurists may be anticipating. But I think the potential that the underlying technology on Poly Market has is at least in part what's driving that valuation quite high. But then Kalshi came back with like a $5 billion valuation a few days later. So we'll see how that shakes out in a year or two as well.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal time to be in the space.
You mentioned conditional markets, and tying this back around to the original hook you gave me was about leverage, thoughts about leverage with prediction markets. And here's a thought so I think about leverage with prediction markets very differently on Manifold versus other sites. Play money versus real money, leverage is very different because with play money, if you have a certain percentage of users who end up in the negative, that's not negative profit for your company. That's inflation of mana. And inflation is not the end of the world if it's managed, but having a steady negative profit is the end of the world for a real money site. So they have to handle it a bit differently. But one advantage prediction markets have when it comes to leverage compared to other scenarios, other industries, are conditional markets. So let's say that you've got a user who bet on 3 different markets. I could add color by thinking of them, but okay, there's ABC. There's 3 different markets. You can create, I'll simplify it just down to 2, A and B, and you can create a conditional market with 4 options, resolves to one of these options. They both resolve, yes, or even to keep it simple, you could just be like, will they both resolve the same way? But having a third market that connects those first 2 tells you how correlated they are. And that means that if you are a company looking to have some sort of leverage offering program, you have a mechanism for assessing risk with low overhead. You can be like, oh, you're invested in these 2 markets. Oh, they're completely different. We can basically find the chance of you going bust by multiplying those 2 probabilities together. Or, oh, those are highly correlated. You're a more risky person to lend to because if one goes bust, it all goes bust. You could potentially leverage a bunch of those conditional markets to create a sort of leverage program that could be interesting. I think there's some potential in that direction.
Yeah, that would it would also expand the hedging options that I mean, I know Kalshi is big on arguing that's a hedging platform, and it does offer increasingly niche hedges. So that'd be an interesting way to offer even more risk measurement to all of its users at scale, especially the institutional money. I mean, we have covered so much ground. This was such a fun conversation to have. Thanks so much for coming by. I love your story and I love your thoughts on the industry. And are you coming to Manifest this upcoming year whenever they schedule it?
I'd like to. I'll say tentatively yes. That'd be really cool.
I'm hoping to get out there as well. So if we both end up there, I will certainly see you there. If you like what you heard today, like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Prediction News, and follow us on X at Prediction News. Tumbles, best of luck to you.
You as well. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much for coming.